Hey everybody, I'm out here at Standing Rocks and I am getting a trail run in today. I usually run on the road, but it's nice to get out here, get out in the woods a little bit and enjoy the trails. And another fun fact about Standing Rocks for me is this is where I proposed to my wife, so it's always fun to get back out here. And another reason I'm out here is to promote some movement variability for me, and so that's what we're going to actually talk about today, is the importance of movement variability in preventing overuse injuries. Welcome back to the clinic, where it is a beautiful 70 in fluorescent, and here you just can't beat it. But yeah, talking about movement variability, this is not just reserved for runners. So anyone who's been listening who's not a runner, you can tune back in now. We're not going to just be talking about running. So let's start by talking about what happens with repetitive activities. Whenever you go out for a run, a bike, a swim, if you're just walking, the same stress is being put through tissues over and over again, which leads to some normal breakdown of those tissues. So every time that we go out and do a repetitive activity, whether if it's our muscles, tendons, joint surfaces, all of them are undergoing stress that they need to recover from. So one of the things that we know is that if our muscle is broken down from some form of activity, it needs time to recover. And this is true even if you're weightlifting, but it's going to need time to recover. And sometimes that's up to 48 hours, a lot of times, sometimes up to 72. Another structure that we know really well is that tendons need about 48 to 72 hours to fully reform their collagen fibers, which is just the dense tissue that makes up a tendon. So time is needed for these muscles and tendons and the other structures in our body to recover after any sort of activity. So what do we do about this? One of the things is that rest is important. So our body actually gets stronger as we rest. Rest is not necessarily a weakness thing, but rest doesn't need to be just you sitting on your couch, and that's where movement variability comes in. So if you go for a run, some of the tissues that are going to get a lot of stress are your patellar tendons, your Achilles tendons, the joint surfaces in your knees, your hips, your ankles, the arches of your feet. All of those get a lot of stress. So if on your next day you can do exercises that are stressing other tissues, so if you think about what biking does, there's less impact. So a lot of the things that are stressed during running aren't stressed during biking. With running too, you saw me out on the trails. Instead of just running in a straight line where I'm getting the same movement pattern over and over, trails cause me to change direction, hop over different routes, or if there's different hills, you're changing direction, you're going up and down, so the stress is not as repetitive. So a combination of rest and cross-training, just doing things that make you move a little bit differently, can keep you from breaking down that tissue too much to the point where you start to get hurt. The other thing that I will say is that it's really important to listen to your body. So if you're starting to feel a little bit of an ache or a nag in those tendons that surround your joints, that's probably a sign that you're starting to get to the point where you might have some overuse. And that could mean one of two things. One, that you just need a little bit of rest, or two, that you might be moving in a way that's putting too much stress through that tissue. And that's where obviously I'm going to recommend that you would go see your physical therapist early. If you catch this stuff early, you can get rid of it quickly. If you let it go on and on, you start getting these chronic tendon issues, which are no fun. And so what a physical therapist can do is to check for any strength deficits and, even more importantly, movement impairments that can be leading to excess stress through structures and help you do all these activities that you love pain-free. Another area that movement variability is extremely important is in youth athletics, but we don't have time for it today, so stay tuned for our next episode of the Body 101 series, where we'll talk about youth athletics and sports specialization. Come join our running group. We meet on Tuesdays at 5:30 a.m.